Then on Sports Central, we go for a college football game preview and prediction on the Week 2 matchup between the Ole Miss Rebels and the Tulane Green Wave, two teams that have got high expectations this season, and rightfully so. Both teams very talented. Ole Miss, a team that last season had a disappointing end to the year, a few really tough, close losses. And this is a team that's talented enough to be an SEC contender. It's just about winning the big games, and this is definitely one of them as they take on Tulane. Tulane's a team that best group of 5 team in the country last year for sure, won the Cotton Bowl against USC, and they got off to a hot start last week beating South Alabama. You consider Tulane in this position, though. This is a game with big college football playoff implications for them. This is a team that's talented enough to make a run, kind of similar to what Cincinnati did a few years ago. But this is a crucial game for them because if you lose this game, you're already out of contention. So a massive game for both teams coming up here in Week 2. We'll be going for a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today. Let's get started with your team trends. Ole Miss is 1-0 to start the season. Beat Mercer 73-7 last week. So a dominant win for Ole Miss there to start out the season. And as for Tulane, they also had a dominant win, definitely over a better team. South Alabama is not a bad football team. They could be one of the better teams in the Sun Belt this season. Wouldn't be surprised if they even won the conference. So to beat them by 20 should not be overlooked. That was an impressive win there, and they're starting out the season 1-0 as well. Both teams are inside the top 25. Games will be on Saturday, September 9th in New Orleans. Tulane is the home team for this matchup, which does give them an advantage there. Home game, and then your kickoff is 2:30 Central. Spread's going with Ole Miss by 7, so the Rebels are favored by a touchdown. Which you consider the Rebels. This is a team that's probably got more confidence in them versus Tulane, but I do think Tulane's a team that's definitely talented enough to make a run for the college football playoff this season. They didn't lose a whole lot of their key players. Offensively, top running back, a few receivers. You look at Michael Pratt, their quarterback, who was really good last season. He's back, and he's definitely an impressive quarterback that's worth mentioning and keeping an eye on for sure. FPI is going Ole Miss 77% as well, so the Rebels are a decent favorite in this matchup. They lead the series 42-28. Last game was in 2021 where Ole Miss won it 61-21. That was back when Tulane was 2-10 in 2021. And times have changed for sure the last 2 seasons. We don't know about this season quite yet, but I would assume this team is bound for an excellent season. The way they played in Week 1, I was very impressed, and I think Tulane is a team to really keep an eye on. Stat comparison for this one, last week, Jackson Dart, good start for him, 18 for 23, 334 yards and 4 touchdowns. This Ole Miss team last week put up 524 yards of passing, and it's obviously against Mercer, but it's worth mentioning. Quinshon Judkins, lead running back, 60 yards, 2 touchdowns. Trey Harris was the lead receiver. As for Tulane, Michael Pratt threw it 15 times, completed 14, and he almost had 300 yards of passing in those 14 completions and 4 touchdowns as well. And once again, he's an excellent quarterback. Definitely got to keep an eye on. Jaquan Jackson was the top receiver, 3 receptions, 106, and 2 touchdowns. And overall defensively, both teams were pretty strong, I would say, in Week 1. Your key points for this one, Ole Miss 1-0, promising start for the Rebels. And this is an all-around strong team that can definitely contend. We saw this team that, you look at early November, kind of in that time period last year, this was a team that was considered a college football playoff contender. Then they lose to Alabama, they lose to Arkansas, they lose to Mississippi State to finish out the regular season, and that really took all their chances away in a matter of just a couple of weeks. It's about winning those big games, the games that you have to when it comes down to it in November, and Ole Miss just couldn't do that last season. This team was undefeated for a long time. They just couldn't quite finish off the season right, and lost to Texas Tech then there in their bowl game. So it was a disappointing end to last season, but this is still a very talented team that I'm sure is wanting to make things right in 2023. And so for them as well, big thing for them is Ole Miss. They're in the SEC. The SEC is brutal, obviously. This is not a game to overlook. Tulane going on the road, this could be one of their more difficult games this season, and it's definitely one of their biggest trap games, I would say, as well. I think Tulane is not a team to overlook, especially with it being on the road. So for the Rebels, can't be sleeping heading into this matchup because Tulane can definitely take advantage of that. And this is like Tulane's, I don't want to say Super Bowl, but this is a huge game for them. All their college football playoff hopes are on the line here. And if you can beat Ole Miss in week 2, get a nice resume building win there in week 2 when Ole Miss is ranked number 20. And if Tulane can go undefeated the rest of the regular season, which is very much a possibility, we could see Tulane in that top 4 at the end of the season. And so, I mean, Tulane's chances of making the playoff go way up if they can beat Ole Miss in this matchup. So this is a huge matchup, especially for the Green Wave, and I think this team knows that. And Michael Pratt, this offense is for real. They got home field advantage, big implications. Definitely a matchup that's got a lot of big implications, especially early on in the season. But with that, let's get to the prediction here for Ole Miss and Tulane coming up here in week 2. This one went back and forth on for a while. I mean, this is one that could absolutely go either way, but I'm going to go with Tulane to pull the upset, win this one 38-34. I picked Tulane against USC. I was one of the only ones to do that last bowl season. I'm going to go with Tulane again. I think this is a team that knows that they have to win this one if they want to be in the playoff. I think this is a team that's talented enough. I mean, they got a couple of questionable areas, but so does Ole Miss. Ole Miss lost a lot of talent after last season as well, so both teams are kind of pushing through that. And the way Tulane played in week 1, it's still early on in this season, but I was impressed with how this team played, beat a good South Alabama team by 20. So I do think, Tulane is still for real, and I think they steal a win off of Ole Miss here 38-34. I'm going to say 55% towards Tulane. Definitely close matchup. That could totally go either way. Over under 67. I'm taking the over. We see a higher scoring matchup here, I think, between two really strong offenses, and Tulane covers the spread in the end. But definitely a matchup to keep an eye on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.